My wife declared a financial revolution to gain freedom, and when the truth about her debt, lies, and double life emerged, her world crashed down hard. Across from me at our dining table, wine glass in hand, with that expression she gets when she's about to suggest something she thinks is revolutionary. After 5 years of marriage, I've learned to recognize the signs. I've been thinking, she began, swirling her Cabernet. We should separate our finances. I put down my fork mid-bite. This wasn't about a new couch or planning a vacation. This was different. Where's this coming from? I asked, keeping my tone neutral despite the sudden tension in my shoulders. She launched into a prepared speech about financial independence, modern relationships, and how combining finances was an outdated concept. According to her, separating our accounts would give us both freedom and autonomy. I noticed she'd used phrases that sounded rehearsed, almost copied from somewhere else. My friends at work have been doing this for years, she continued, eyes bright with excitement. They say it's transformed their marriages. I nodded slowly, processing. The friends she mentioned were a group of women recently divorced or in troubled marriages. Not exactly relationship experts in my book, but I stayed silent, listening. So, here's what I'm thinking, she continued. We split all household expenses 50-50. We each keep our own accounts. We both contribute to a joint account for bills, but everything else stays separate. After 5 years of shared finances, this felt like a step backward, but rather than argue, I decided to see where this would go. If that's what you want, let's try it, I agreed, watching her carefully. Her enthusiasm seemed excessive for a simple financial arrangement. The next morning, she was already creating spreadsheets, calculating percentages, and dividing our household costs down to the penny. I went along with it, transferring my share to our new joint account while maintaining my personal account separate as requested. Within days, I noticed changes. She became protective of her phone, quickly switching screens when I walked by. Shopping bags appeared in our closet with items I'd never seen her wear. Weekend girls' trips increased in frequency. Each time I asked about these expenses, she'd remind me with a rehearsed smile. Separate finances, remember? I don't question your spending. Except I wasn't splurging. I was saving more than ever. One evening, while handling some mail, I noticed credit card statements addressed to her marked urgent and final notice. I placed them on her desk unopened. When confronted, she laughed it off as just some promotional thing and quickly stuffed them in a drawer. 3 weeks into this new arrangement, our refrigerator broke down. According to our new system, major appliances were a shared expense. When I asked for her half of the replacement cost, she hesitated. Can you cover it this time? I'm a bit tight this month. No explanation offered. I agreed but made a mental note. This wasn't about independence. Something else was happening. Late one night, I overheard her on the phone in our bathroom, voice lowered. I just need to figure out the money situation. No, he doesn't suspect anything. Yes, I'm handling it. I didn't confront her then. Instead, I decided to watch how this financial revolution would play out. I had a feeling the countdown had already begun. Rather than fight it, I'd let reality deliver its own lessons. In reality, unlike me, wouldn't be so understanding when the bills came due. As our separate finances revolution entered its second week, the cracks were already starting to show. I watched with detached curiosity as my wife's version of financial independence unfolded before my eyes. While I brown-bagged my lunch and made coffee at home, she continued her daily ritual of designer coffee and lunches out with her friends. Her definition of financial independence clearly didn't include any actual lifestyle changes. Mine did. You seem to be enjoying this new arrangement, I commented one evening as she unboxed another online shopping delivery. The receipt fluttered to the floor, and I caught a glimpse of the 4-figure total before she snatched it away. It's liberating, she responded, not meeting my eyes. I don't have to justify my spending to anyone yet. 3 days later, she was at the kitchen counter with a stack of papers and a creased brow. Something wrong? I asked, already knowing the answer. Just balancing my accounts, she muttered. Everything's fine. But everything wasn't fine. The next morning, I found a letter from our mortgage company stating that her half of the payment hadn't cleared. When confronted, she claimed it was just a mix-up with her new bank account. I covered the difference without argument, curious to see what would happen next. By the end of the second week, she started suggesting adjustments to our 50-50 split. I've been thinking, she began over dinner, using that same rehearsed tone. Since you make 15% more than me, shouldn't you pay 15% more of our expenses? That would be the fair approach. I set down my glass. Wasn't the whole point of this to have equal contributions regardless of income? That's what you said when you proposed this system. Well, yes, but nothing. We agreed on terms. Either we stick to them or we go back to combined finances. My tone left no room for negotiation. She backed down immediately. No, you're right, 50-50 is fine. The following day, I noticed she'd canceled her monthly massage membership and downgraded her gym subscription. Small adjustments that told me everything I needed to know about her actual financial situation. One evening, while she was showering, her phone lit up with notifications. I wasn't looking for evidence, but the screen was there in plain sight on the coffee table. 3 missed calls from someone labeled Capital One Emergency. A text preview read, "Your account is now 45 days past due." When she emerged from the bathroom, I was reading a book, giving no indication of what I'd seen. "Everything okay with your credit cards?" I asked casually, her face drained of color. "What do you mean, just asking? You seem stressed about money lately." "Everything's fine," she snapped, grabbing her phone and disappearing into the bedroom. The next day, I noticed she'd taken her lunch to work for the first time since our arrangement began. That evening, she suggested a movie night at home rather than our usual Friday dinner out. Small compromises appearing like cracks in her financial facade. By the end of the 3rd week, she was checking her bank balance hourly. The spreadsheets that had once been her revolutionary manifesto now sat abandoned on her laptop. Reality was settling in, and it wasn't the financial independence dream she'd envisioned. "How are you finding our new system?" I asked casually over weekend breakfast. "Still feel liberating?" She forced a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "It's an adjustment, but it's the modern way, right?" I nodded, buttering my toast. "Modern doesn't always mean better." She glanced up sharply but said nothing. The financial revolution was starting to eat its own, and I hadn't even seen the full storm that was coming. The morning that everything changed, I was working from home. My wife had left for her marketing job as usual, dressed impeccably in a new outfit I'd never seen before. Another credit card purchase, no doubt. Around 11 o'clock, her cell phone rang on the kitchen counter where she'd forgotten it. Normally, I wouldn't answer her calls, but the screen showed HR department, and it was the 3rd consecutive call. Something seemed urgent. "Hello," I answered. "Oh," said a surprised female voice. "I was trying to reach your wife. This is Linda from HR. We've been trying to contact her for the past 2 weeks regarding her final paycheck and exit paperwork." I maintained my composure despite the bombshell. "Final paycheck?" "Yes," Linda continued, confusion evident in her tone. "Since her position was eliminated almost 3 weeks ago, she hasn't returned any of our calls or emails about finalizing her departure package." I thanked Linda calmly, promised my wife would contact her, and ended the call. Then I sat at our kitchen island, letting this revelation sink in. For nearly 3 weeks, my wife had been pretending to go to a job she no longer had, leaving the house at 8 a.m., returning at 6 p.m., all while maintaining the charade of normalcy, and more importantly, maintaining her spending habits. When she walked through the door that evening, I was waiting with a glass of her favorite wine. She looked exhausted, dropping her purse on the counter with a dramatic sigh. "Rough day at the office?" I asked, sliding the wine toward her. She took the glass gratefully. "You have no idea. The Peterson account is just—" "Linda from HR called," I interrupted, watching her face carefully. "She needs you to complete your exit paperwork. Something about your position being eliminated 3 weeks ago." The color drained from her face. The glass froze halfway to her lips for several seconds. She said nothing, calculating her response. "I was going to tell you," she finally managed. "When? After maxing out all your credit cards? After missing another mortgage payment?" My tone remained even despite my rising anger. Tears appeared in her eyes. I was embarrassed. "I didn't want you to think less of me. I've been interviewing for new positions. I thought I'd have something lined up before you found out." "So, you've been pretending to go to work every day for 3 weeks. Where have you been going?" "To the library, coffee shops, networking events." She wiped away tears. "Please don't be angry. This is exactly why we needed separate finances, so my employment situation wouldn't affect you." I almost laughed at the absurdity. "That's not why you wanted separate finances. You wanted the freedom to spend without accountability while hiding your financial issues from me." "How much debt have you racked up in these 3 weeks?" She looked away, refusing to answer. "Your credit cards are maxed out, aren't they? That's why you've been missing your share of the bills." More tears. Then came the inevitable pivot. "I need help," she admitted. "Just until I find another position. Could you cover my share of expenses temporarily? Once I'm back on my feet, I'll pay you back. We're still partners, right?" Even with separate finances, the manipulation was so transparent it was almost impressive. 3 weeks ago, she had proclaimed financial independence as the modern foundation of marriage. Now, faced with consequences, she wanted the safety net of partnership without the accountability. I walked to the fridge, poured myself a glass of water, and turned to face her. "I'll cover the household bills," I stated firmly. "Roof over our heads, utilities, groceries, everything else, your car payment, credit cards, shopping habits. Those are your separate finances, your revolution, your rules. But..." "No," I cut her off. "You wanted independence. Now you have it, complete with consequences." "That's not fair," she protested, tears instantly drying up. "This is an extraordinary circumstance. Life is full of extraordinary circumstances. That's why partnerships exist, to weather them together. But you dismantled our financial partnership 3 weeks ago, remember?" She stared at me in disbelief, as if I had betrayed her by holding her to her own standards. "I need to know the full situation," I continued. "All your debts, all your missed payments, everything. Not because I'm controlling your finances, but because I need to protect mine." As she reluctantly revealed the extent of her financial disaster, I realized the separate finances revolution had just encountered its first major battle, and it was already waving the white flag, even if my wife wasn't ready to admit defeat. The next phase of my wife's financial revolution was both predictable and painful to watch, like watching someone insist they could swim moments before they start drowning. After the job loss revelation, she launched into various money-making schemes with frantic energy. First came the multi-level marketing venture selling overpriced skincare products. Our guest bathroom quickly filled with inventory she couldn't move. Her social media transformed into a desperate sales pitch that alienated friends and family alike. "How's the skincare business?" I asked one evening as she aggressively typed on her phone. "It's building momentum," she replied without looking up. "These things take time." 3 days later, I found the products boxed up in the garage. She never mentioned them again. Next came the investment opportunity with her friend's boyfriend's cryptocurrency startup. She didn't consult me before investing, separate finances after all, but I overheard enough of the conversation to recognize a classic scam. "You know that's not a legitimate investment, right?" I commented after she hung up. "You don't understand how these opportunities work," she dismissed. "It's the future of finance." 2 weeks later, the company vanished along with her investment. The founder's social media accounts disappeared simultaneously. She retreated to our bedroom for hours after discovering the truth. "I didn't say I told you so." Her tears were confirmation enough. By day 28 of our financial separation, she'd cycled through 3 more desperate attempts. Selling designer clothes online, netting far less than she'd paid, offering social media management services without any actual clients, and briefly trying to launch a personal shopping business with no takers. Meanwhile, I continued paying the mortgage, utilities, and grocery bills as promised. Beyond that, she was on her own, exactly as she'd wanted. Her car payment was now 30 days late. The credit card companies called daily. The facade of the independent, financially savvy woman was crumbling. One Saturday morning, we ran into mutual friends at the farmer's market. My wife had once boasted to them about our progressive financial arrangement. "How's that separate finances thing working out?" our friend's husband asked me while our wives chatted nearby. "My wife keeps bringing it up, thinking we should try it. I'd advise against it," I replied honestly. "Unless you're prepared for complete transparency and equally shared responsibility, otherwise it becomes a shield for hiding financial problems." He nodded thoughtfully. "That's what I figured. She came home from lunch with your wife yesterday, suddenly talking about needing her financial independence. Seemed like something changed in your situation." I raised an eyebrow. So my wife was still promoting her financial revolution to friends even as it collapsed around her. Interesting. That evening, I discovered her latest attempt at solvency. She'd applied for a personal loan using our home as collateral without discussing it with me. The letter of denial sat open on her desk, citing her recent unemployment and existing debt load. My name had been forged on the initial application. I placed the letter in front of her during dinner. "Want to explain this?" Her face flushed. "It's not what it looks like. It looks like fraud," I stated flatly. "Forging my signature on a loan application." "I was desperate," she snapped, facade finally breaking. "Do you know how humiliating this has been? Pretending everything's fine while watching my life fall apart." "I do know," I replied calmly. "I've had a front row seat to the performance. So you've just been watching me suffer, enjoying it, not enjoying it, observing the natural consequences of your choices. The same choices you said would liberate you." She threw a napkin down. "You're my husband. You're supposed to support me. I am supporting you, roof, food, utilities. What I'm not doing is rescuing you from the separate finances system you created. That would rob you of your independence." Her glare could have melted steel. "You're being vindictive." No, I corrected. I'm honoring your wishes completely and exactly as you stated them. Anything less would be disrespectful to your autonomy. The conversation ended with her storming out, slamming the front door behind her. 3 hours later, she returned with puffy eyes and a subdued demeanor. We didn't speak further that night. The next morning, she left earlier than usual, dressed in clothes I recognized from her professional wardrobe rather than her recent casual attire. When she returned that evening, she placed a small stack of papers on the kitchen counter. I had 2 job interviews today, she announced quietly. Entry-level positions, much less than I was making before. I nodded, acknowledging the effort. That's a start. Her revolution was on its last legs, and day 39 was approaching, the day everything would finally come to a head. Day 39 arrived with a thunderstorm that matched the atmosphere in our home. The financial revolution was about to face its Waterloo, and we both knew it. I was reviewing some work emails when I heard her car pull into the driveway earlier than expected. The front door opened, then closed quietly. Not her usual dramatic entrance. Something had changed. She appeared in the doorway of our home office, makeup streaked from tears, clutching a manila envelope. Without a word, she placed it on my desk and took the chair opposite me. "What's this?" I asked, though I had my suspicions. "Everything," she whispered. "My complete financial situation. Bank statements, credit card bills, rejection letters from jobs, denial letters from loan applications. Everything." I opened the envelope and began reviewing the documents. It was worse than I'd imagined. 3 maxed-out credit cards with astronomical interest rates, 2 months of missed car payments, a personal loan from a predatory lender, and a bank account hovering just above zero. "It's been exactly 39 days, I noted, looking at the calendar on my desk. She nodded, a fresh tear tracking down her cheek. "I can't do this anymore. I can't keep pretending. This separate finances thing, it was a mistake. I've completely ruined myself in just over a month." "Why 39 days, I asked. "Why not come to this realization on day 20 or day 30? She looked down at her hands. "Today I received an eviction notice from the landlord." I blinked in confusion. "What landlord?" "We own our home, not for our house," she clarified. "For the small apartment I rented." The revelation hit like a physical blow. "You rented an apartment without telling me?" She nodded miserably. "It was part of my plan. 25 days ago, when I lost my job, I panicked. I thought I needed an exit strategy, a place to go when everything fell apart. I signed a 6-month lease on a studio apartment across town, used my first unemployment check for the deposit. The pieces finally clicked into place. The days she disappeared for hours, mysterious trips with no explanation, not a lover, as I briefly suspected, but something almost as deceitful, a secret escape plan. "You were planning to leave me." "It wasn't a question. I was planning for contingencies," she corrected weakly. "But yes, if things went badly enough, I thought I might need space to regroup. And now you're being evicted from your secret apartment. I missed the first month's rent. They're demanding payment in full plus late fees by tomorrow, or they'll begin eviction proceedings." She looked up, desperation in her eyes. "I don't have it. Any of it." I stood up and walked around my desk, leaning against it with arms crossed. I looked down at her, this woman who had betrayed my trust on multiple levels, who had planned an escape route from our marriage while preaching about financial revolution. "So, let me get this straight," I said, voice dangerously calm. "You secretly rented an apartment as an escape plan from our marriage. You forged my signature on loan applications. You lied about having a job for weeks. You maxed out credit cards and took predatory loans. And now you want my help." She flinched at each accusation but didn't deny any of it. "I made terrible mistakes. I'm so sorry. Sorry you did it, or sorry you got caught." "Both," she admitted, at least having the decency to be honest now. "I need help. Please, I'll do anything." I laughed without humor. "Anything? That's a dangerous promise to make." "I mean it," she whispered. "Whatever it takes to fix this." I studied her for a long moment. The woman sitting before me was not the partner I thought I had. She was someone capable of extensive deception, someone influenced by toxic friendships, someone who had been planning to abandon our marriage. "Here's what's going to happen," I said finally. "I'll bail you out of this financial disaster, pay off the apartment lease, get your car payment current, handle the immediate crisis. Not because I'm being nice, but because I don't want my own credit destroyed by association." Relief flooded her face. "Thank you." I held up my hand, silencing her. "I'm not finished. This comes with non-negotiable conditions." Her relief faded, replaced by apprehension. "First, you cut all contact with those friends who put these ideas in your head, all of them, no exceptions. They're toxic to our marriage, and they're gone from your life as of today." Her eyes widened, but she nodded slowly. "Second, you surrender all financial control to me. Every account, every card, every password. You get an allowance until you prove you can be trusted again, which will take years, not months." Another nod, more hesitant this time. "Third, you find a job within 2 weeks. Any job. I don't care if it's flipping burgers or cleaning houses. You start rebuilding from zero." "I understand," she whispered. "Fourth, you tell your parents and mine exactly what you did, the secret apartment, the forgery, all of it. No sugarcoating. They deserve to know who you really are." Tears welled in her eyes at this, but she nodded again. "And lastly," I continued, "that apartment you rented. I'm not paying it off so you can abandon it. I'm paying it off because you're going to live there." "What?" Shock replaced her tears. "Your financial revolution created this mess. Your independence destroyed our trust. So now you're going to experience what real independence feels like, complete with a roommate you'll find to help cover costs. You wanted separate. You got it. You're kicking me out." Her voice cracked. "I'm giving you exactly what you planned for yourself, just not on your terms or timing. The apartment was your idea, not mine." "For how long?" she asked, trembling. "Until I decide otherwise. Could be a month, could be a year. Depends entirely on your actions, not your words. Words mean nothing to me anymore." She sat in stunned silence, the full impact of her choices finally hitting her. "If you can't accept these terms, there's the door." I gestured toward the hallway. "Go try your financial revolution somewhere else." "And if I accept?" she asked quietly. "Then maybe we have a chance of rebuilding something from the ashes of what you burned down. But it will never be what it was before. That relationship is dead." She wiped her tears with shaking hands, then looked up at me with a mixture of fear and desperate hope. "I accept," she whispered, "all of it, whatever it takes." I nodded once, unmoved by her tears. "Pack a bag. You start your new independent life tomorrow. Your revolution just found its new roommate, reality." The aftermath of a revolution is never pretty. It's messy, humbling, and filled with hard truths. My wife was learning this firsthand. I helped her move to her secret apartment the next day. The irony wasn't lost on either of us. She'd rented it as an escape plan, and now it had become her reality, just not on her terms. The place was small, a basic studio with minimal furnishings, the kind of starter apartment someone might rent straight out of college, not the luxurious independent woman retreat she'd likely envisioned. "I'll bring the rest of your essential things tomorrow," I said, setting down the last box. "You've got enough clothes, for a week, toiletries and basic kitchen supplies." She stood in the center of the room, looking lost. The gravity of the situation had clearly hit her. This wasn't a temporary punishment. This was her new reality until further notice. "When will I see you again?" she asked quietly. "When you've honored all the conditions we agreed upon." "Not before." Her eyes filled with tears. "What about the roommate situation? I've placed an ad online. I'll screen the applicants and let you know who's moving in by the end of the week." "You're actually making me live with a stranger." Disbelief colored her voice. "You made yourself a stranger to me over the past 39 days, I replied evenly. "Consider it a learning experience." As I turned to leave, her voice stopped me. "Wait, can I at least keep my car? How am I supposed to find a job without transportation?" I tossed her a bus schedule I'd printed out. "The financial revolution comes with financial reality. Your car is being repossessed tomorrow since you're 3 months behind on payments. I'm not covering that debt. You'll use public transportation like millions of other independent adults." The shock on her face was almost comical. Her financial independence had never considered actual sacrifices. "But the bus stop is 2 blocks east. Schedule is on the back page. I suggest you start job hunting tomorrow. 2-week clock is already ticking." I left without looking back, her sobs fading behind me as I closed the door. The next week brought the inevitable phone calls. Her parents called first, horrified by her full confession as I demanded. "She told us everything," her father said, his voice heavy with disappointment. "The secret apartment, the job loss, the forgery. I never thought she was capable of such deception." "Neither did I replied simply. "Are you really making her live in that apartment?" her mother asked, concern evident. "Yes," I answered without hesitation. "She made her choices. Now she lives with the consequences." My own parents were equally stunned but supported my decisions. "It sounds harsh," my father admitted, "but necessary. She betrayed your trust on multiple levels." By day 5, she'd found a job at a coffee shop 6 blocks from her apartment. Entry level, minimum wage plus tips. A far cry from her previous marketing position, but it was employment. Condition 3 fulfilled. When I visited to deliver more of her belongings, I found her in tears over a letter. The credit card companies are demanding immediate payment, she explained, showing me the threatening notices. They're talking about legal action. I raised an eyebrow. What do you expect me to do about it? I thought you said you'd help with the financial crisis. I said I'd handle the apartment lease and car payment to protect my own credit. Your personal credit card debt is your problem. I set down the box I was carrying. Welcome to the real separate finances you wanted. Not just the spending freedom part, but the responsibility part too. I'd found her a roommate, a graduate student who worked nights as a hospital aide. They would barely see each other due to opposite schedules, which was probably for the best. The student moved in on day 7, taking the pull-out sofa while my wife kept the bedroom. She seems nice enough, my wife reported during one of our brief interactions. She doesn't talk much, keeps to herself. Perfect, I replied. Should make it easier to focus on rebuilding your life. By the end of week 2, something had shifted. The desperation in my wife's eyes had been replaced by something else, a mix of resignation and determination. She'd started walking to work in the pre-dawn hours, returning home with coffee-stained clothes and exhaustion etched into her features. She'd opened a new basic checking account with her cafe earnings. No credit cards, no overdraft protection, pure financial responsibility. I received a text from her on day 22. Can we talk in person? We met at a diner halfway between our house and her apartment. She looked different, thinner, tired, but somehow more present than she'd been in months. The designer clothes and perfect makeup were gone, replaced by simple jeans and a clean but basic top. Thank you for meeting me, she began, hands wrapped around a mug of coffee. I wanted to update you on my progress. She slid a folder across the table. Inside was a meticulously tracked budget, job applications for better positions, a payment plan for her credit card debt, and receipts showing she'd already made initial payments from her coffee shop earnings. I've cut all contact with my friends, she continued, the ones who encouraged the separate finances idea. You were right, they weren't real friends. When I told them what happened, not one offered to help. They just stopped returning my calls. I nodded, reviewing her documents. And how's life with your roommate? Humbling, she admitted. She's 24, working nights to pay for graduate school, and somehow managing her money better than I ever did. She's taught me how to shop on a budget, how to cook instead of ordering in, basic things I should have known. So, what are you asking for? I kept my tone neutral, giving nothing away. Nothing yet, she replied, surprising me. I'm not asking to come home or for financial help. I know I haven't earned that. I just wanted you to know I'm taking this seriously. The conditions you set, I'm meeting them not just because you demanded it, but because I need this reset. For the first time since her revolution began, I saw genuine accountability rather than manipulation. My therapist says I was trying to sabotage our marriage, she continued, that I was looking for an escape because intimacy and commitment scared me. The separate finances thing was just a symptom of deeper issues. You're seeing a therapist? This was news to me. She nodded. Twice a week. I found one who offers sliding scale fees. It's taking most of my tips, but it's worth it. We talked for another hour, not about reconciliation or the future, but about the reality of her present situation. For once, she didn't ask for anything. No money, no reprieve, no early return home. As we parted ways outside, diner, she hesitated and spoke softly. I don't expect you to believe me yet, but I'll prove it over time. The financial revolution wasn't just a failure, it was a delusion. Real independence isn't about separate accounts or spending without accountability. It's about responsibility, honesty, and earning trust. I nodded, offering neither forgiveness nor rejection. We'll see. Driving home, I realized that her financial revolution had indeed lasted exactly 39 days. But the revolution against her own destructive behavior, that was just beginning, and this time it might actually lead somewhere worth going. The revolution was dead. Long live the revolution. Our story has come to an end. If you've made it this far, how about subscribing to our channel? It helps us immensely. I've selected 2 other videos for you that I'm sure you'll enjoy. Feel free to click on them. I'll be waiting for you in the next story. See you soon.